Another note to all the youngsters and anyone else who might be a little short on money and is considering: do not gamble with very little money. If you don't have much money, save. Don't gamble. like seriously, that's a bad idea. It was more crowded than I thought. Lots of pachinko balls, lots of people, and more importantly, cash boxes crowded everywhere. As good a place as any. Thinking this, I headed over to the slots machines. I inspected them from the corridor for a while, and after having finished my survey, I focused on one set of machines. Lots of middle-aged salarymen, alright, up to 4 boxes at their feet and up to 2 on racks above them, and an empty stand separating each of them. From what I'd seen before, these men hadn't come with acquaintances or friends. This satisfied the requirements. Perhaps in a place like this, no one would notice if I swiped one of those cash boxes. They are becoming hardened criminals. That's another thing. You probably shouldn't enter a life of crime if you're low on cash. I mean, hopefully you can borrow some from... I don't know. I mean... stealing is wrong. And in a store like this, each one probably held 20,000 yen or so. And with just that much, I just kept waiting there for one of the salarymen to go to the bathroom. After a little while, after roughly half an hour had passed of me just perving on these salarymen, one of them finally stood up from his seat. After I tailed him a bit to make sure he was going to the bathroom, I dashed back to the stand that he'd occupied, and watching the people who were hitting the slots and at the attendants, I slowly approached that stand. Then, so as not to raise any suspicion, as if it were the most natural thing in the world, I swiped one of the cash boxes underfoot. Clinkety clinker clink, very stealthy, ninja-like in my stealth. God. That moment, coins scattered everywhere with a thunderous noise. I'd been meaning to pick it up. No, I really had picked it up with my very own hands, but they were unable to bear the weight, and the cash box crashed onto the floor. Everyone turned in my direction to see what the commotion was all about. I got the feeling that someone was shouting. I also got the feeling that someone was running toward me, but that was all behind me. I'd already bolted and was less than 2 meters away from the entrance of the establishment by then. Slam! Pant pant. I put the engine in ignition in a hurry and floored the pedal, and when I spun the wheel to make my hasty getaway, just then... wham! Crunch crunch. Eek! But what? I'd run against the curb or something as I turned to make my getaway, thus the horrible crunching sound, but I accelerated onto the road before me without giving it a second thought. Oh dear. I mean, now the cops are... well, maybe, I don't know, we'll see. Nothing was actually stolen, who knows. My suddenly constricting, out-of-breath chest and the silver coupe, speeding out of the daylight and into darkness. I was concerned about the crash a little while ago, but I had to distance myself from that place now. And soon, after 10 minutes of this, a fair distance away from that pachinko parlour, I stopped at some roadside and started to get out to inspect the damage. Are things okay? Yeah, doesn't look too serious. She sounded slightly worried as she called out to me. I answered her as I inspected the damage. There was just a bump in the rear fender and a small crack in the muffler. Didn't look as if there'd be any problem driving like this. I let out a sigh, somewhat relieved. That sucked. I thought back at what had just happened at the pachinko parlour. I'd slipped up there, but had I been a little more skillful, I might have pulled it off. The reason I wasn't able to hold onto that cash box was because it had been a while since I'd lifted something heavy. If I'd held onto it with all my strength at the outset, I might have been able to make it. So you miscalculated. Huh? The current you can't do what the former you could have. She spoke as if she'd seen straight through me. But that kind of weight, so it's best not to think of it the same way. Perhaps she was right. I didn't want to admit how changed I was. Fair enough, I hadn't anticipated at all that I could grow this week. Then, what should I do? No answer. eyes turned in silence toward the window to stare into the dark night sky. This was probably the way she was telling me to give up. Oh. Right. Next chapter. Here we go. The Emerald Sea? This looks pretty cool. Ah, good. There we go. Alright, here we are. Let's go. Drink time. Okay, and we're back with the girl. My time at a standstill. My heart at a standstill. Days of useless trivia upon useless trivia. Days spent gazing at a map, closing my eyes, travelling through unfamiliar roads. One day, the usual monthly magazines, a photograph on a cover drew my eyes. A female model in a showy swimsuit, provocative poses on a sandy beach, a smile captured right before the emerald sea that I'd always dreamed about. She was probably my age, smiling at me happily, cheerfully with her outstanding figure. It wasn't as if I was jealous or anything. I didn't own any swimsuits to begin with, and I didn't come close to having any need for them. My pyjamas were quite enough for me. I'd spent so many seasons, so many white overcast skies without the want or need to converse with anybody. I remembered that day, June of the first year of middle school, the day of my first hospitalization. I remembered having ordered a swimsuit. I remembered having done so several years ago now. That day I remembered that swimsuit that had lost its opportunity to be used. I took that school swimsuit, new as the day I bought it, out of a drawer where it had patiently waited for years. I took off my usual pyjamas and timidly put on that navy blue swimsuit. I was shocked. It had already been years, and yet it fit me as if it had been made for me that very day. And that swimsuit model was smiling at me warmly, smiling at me from the midst of the emerald sea, smiling at me warmly and happily with that beautiful womanly figure. It was saddening. It wasn't as if I was jealous, no. Truth was, I was probably yearning for it. Yearning for it impossibly, stubbornly, because I knew that it was absolutely impossible. But the huge scars on my chest were telling me to just give up. My lifelong companions, my scars, were telling me to go back to my world of closed eyes. Oh, God, that's horrible. January 22nd, 2005. Choo-choo, Fields train. Around the time when the sun slowly arced down and dyed the western horizon orange, we were on the road as usual. What should we do now? We really had no more money left to spare. Hey, as I thought upon these things, she caught me by surprise by calling out to me. Oh, that was her. Are you allowed to soak in baths? Yeah, they said that I could go ahead unless it was a long, protracted bath. I see. I'm about the same way. What she meant by allowed and what I meant by they was that the doctors didn't caution us against it. There'd been many who'd been forbidden to do so due to kidney or digestive tract issues. And now that I thought about it, her problem was probably in her circulatory system, just like me. Well, do you want to take a bath? Is that bad? No, I kind of wanted to as well. Even so, we didn't have enough money to stay at a hotel or an inn. Then do you want to stop by a public bathhouse? Bathhouse? Yeah, we got the money for that at least. No, it's fine. What do you mean, fine? It had already been 3 days since we'd escaped from 7F. We were allowed to bathe twice a week there, and had sponge baths twice a day as well. Then again, we weren't getting very sweaty given the season, and since we were in a car, we weren't getting dirty. Could it be that it's embarrassing for you to be in a public bathhouse? Not really. Nothing like that at all. Oh. Around the time when the sun had completely disappeared and the moon waxed large in the night sky, some distance away I'd found something that looked like a school. This would have to do. I stopped the car before the gates, and then I rummaged in the back seat through the clump of clothing there. If I remember correctly, there were 2 or 3 towels in this heap. And then, after sifting through a bunch of clothes, I found a hand towel after all. It had the legend Shiraishi Construction written upon it. Probably one of those appreciation gifts they give out like candy. Alright, then wait a bit. Taking 2 towels with me, I headed toward the school. I climbed over the closed gates and looked around anxiously for my target. Ah, there it is. I'd found a water faucet station, probably for gardening use. No! No! A mouse is being eaten by a snake! No! I turned the knob and cold water poured out of the faucet. Water cold enough to freeze me stiff. I wet the 2 towels and squeezed them out. Thud.